Life can be messy, but you don't have to figure it out alone.
Hey, it's the Luskos.
Join pastors and best-selling authors Levi and Jenny Lusko on Hey, It's the Luskos for honest conversations about faith, marriage, family, grief, ministry, and all the unexpected moments in between. You'll laugh, you'll be encouraged, and you'll be reminded that God is faithful through every season.
It will always come back to Jesus in the end.
That's right. Tune in to Hey, It's the Luskos with Levi and Jenny Lusko. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lori LeBay with Alzheimer's Speaks, and I'm thrilled you can join us today. We're going to be thinking about safety and technology. How do you leverage that and age well at home for as long as you can? I think that's a really important concept. And we're going to cover that today by one of the leading companies out there that's doing something a little bit different. But before I introduce you to this CEO, I always encourage people to go to alzheimersspeaks.com, check out all of our free educational resources there. There's a multitude of them in different mediums, so I'm sure you'll find something that can help you. And also our sister company, Dementia Map, which is our global resource directory. And check that out. You don't have to sign up. You don't need a password or anything like that. We try to keep it simple. And last, I always like to give a shout out to my webmaster, Q for Good. They are absolutely fabulous. And if you're frustrated with your webmaster, check out Q for Good. Let's pull back the curtain and I'll introduce you to our guest. Well, Alex, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I think you've got some really cool technology here that I can't wait for my audience to hear about. So if you don't mind, I always like my guests to introduce themselves because you know yourself way better than I do.
Well, sounds good. Hey, nice to see you, Lori. My name is Alex. I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called Silvie, and we are on a mission to help older adults live safer in their homes.
Wonderful. Now, I the other question I always ask everybody is, for all my guests is, have you been personally touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had two of my grandparents more severely. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that, affected their lives quite a bit. And I think it's something that a lot of Americans and Canadians go through. Yeah.
I think all around the world, actually.
That's
Now,
right.
did that experience have an impact on you in terms of developing your technology?
I think it's really more around seeing changes year over year in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times, even for what we think, I mean, Laura, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but a lot of times we think about how that may affect the families, but hey, it affects them, a lot more in many ways. So I think those changes definitely had a long-lasting impact, and we thought we can do something about it as well. So that's why, we built Silvie to help with some of those type of things. But for sure, it starts with them. It's their lives that's impacted the most.
Okay, so when we talk about technology and aging, we typically think of tracking or monitoring. Can you explain where Silvie fits in that?
I feel like both tracking and monitoring imply some sort of surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not the intention of Silvie. Silvie is meant to help them live more independently. And I think for my own grandparents, they didn't want to live in a home. They were offered, but they said no. So it's not really, it's just like, like an airbag would help you in the event of a car crash. We built Silvie to help people in the event that they fall or the event that they, have some accidents. And we won't be able to do any sort of, proactive car crash safety, airbag safety, but we can flag if there's any concerns so that help does arrive on time.
Well, I think it was interesting too when you talked about that whole surveillance because everywhere you go, I don't care if it's driving your car and the flock cameras are on, yeah, and it
Yeah.
makes me think of that TV show. I can't remember the name of it, but where everybody had a block over their head and it was like, "Doot, doot, 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 doot," and it would follow people around and figure out who they were. And, we seem to be living in that day and age of there is no privacy. You hear people talking about, gosh, I was just mentioned to a friend that I wanted new carpet, and now on my phone, I'm getting carpet ads or shoe ads or whatever, and I didn't ask. I didn't ask, them to look for that, and so people feel like there's this breach in our privacy, which I think is really important for people to feel safe and comfortable and respected, because I think, that gets diminished. So how is your technology different in terms of what it's gathering and how it gathers important data?
So when we built this thing, we didn't want to use a camera. I think that was something we rejected right away. We didn't want any sort of audio recording as well, because sometimes audio recording it's not private either, conversations or anything else, right? So we want to use things that are a little bit more of what we have in our daily lives already. Most homes have Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
So most of them already have wireless signals. We just use a different type of wireless signal, and we use radar primarily. So it's really what we can detect and what we can sense are changes in objects and changes in height and behavior and movement, but we can't track anything beyond that in terms of understanding what is in a certain room. So I think that allows us to flag any concerns, but it doesn't like we people ask us all the time, can you identify people? And I'm like, no. Like if you can identify people, then you're already kind of delving in that space a little bit more. So we're not there to do any of that stuff. If there's an accident that happens in a room, it could be the individual in question, it could be somebody else. For us, it's an accident that we should be reporting. That's kind of our focus.
So when Sylvie picks up, let's say somebody falls, what happens then?
Usually we want the families to have the first line of defense or a neighbor. So we have an app and we also have a platform, but usually it's the app that gets responded. But they get a text saying that something's happening. They can open up the app and see what that accident is. In some states, in some jurisdictions, we also have emergency services that can respond to accidents as well. And I think that the point of that isn't to prevent necessarily, right? Because it's still going to happen. That
Mhm.
is that I remember because I have a grandfather, maybe this was about 4 years now, but passed away from a fall and they didn't find them for like 12 hours. So he passed away not from the fall, but he passed away from like pneumonia. So I think like if you can find someone that has had an accident within an hour or two, then the chance of them surviving or living past that point is becomes a lot greater. Um, so I think we really want to make sure that the neighbors, the families get the first access to that information.
What about a person who lives alone and maybe they're, you know, cognitively okay, or maybe they're early onset? Would you ever notify them and say, are you okay? Do you, if they've got a phone, where they're reachable? Are they ever in the loop, or is that the decision kind of the family makes with a product like yours?
Oh, you mean do the older adults have access to information?
Hmm. Yep.
Absolutely. If they have a phone, they can see everything there as well. And actually, a lot of times, from our data, the older adults are using it to get a sense of how they're sleeping, how they're moving around, right? So it's not really just a family thing. They're involved in that process. They should be. They're the ones who's most impacted by these type of things. For me, I use a wearable.
Mhm.
I also have this device as well in my own room, and I like to look at the data and see how I sleep on a nightly basis and those type of things. Just how long I sleep, right? And how long I'm on the couch and how long I'm doing these certain things. So they absolutely have access to that data, and they're really the most important piece of this, this technology. They're the star. The family sometimes cares. They sometimes worry. It helps gives the family some peace of mind, but the older adult is absolutely the star.
Yeah, because I think of a friend of mine who is living in well, no, she's just in a senior building. It's not even assisted living, and she took a fall, and it took her 6 hours just to crawl from one room
Oh
to
no.
another. And she would just, because the way she fell, it was hard to even get her arms underneath her. And she said it was just the most excruciating. It was painful, but it was also just so scary. Like, am I going to make it to my phone to call somebody? And I hear from my support groups and just elders at, in general, and I'm 67, so I'm getting up there. I think twice before I hop on my step stool to go grab something, and because I've had friends who have fallen and really gotten into some major problems with that. So I think it's something that a lot of independent people worry about as well as we age. And so that was my reason for the question. Are they part of the loop? And I would imagine some of those people are purchasing your product themselves independently without even the families knowing at times as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. How's your friend? Is she okay?
Yeah, she's
Sure.
she's she's okay, but it's she had needed some surgeries and things, and so she's getting one done, and then there's another one after that, and um, it's hard, and nobody wants to end up in the hospital or in transitional care. We want to avoid those things, and like you say, being able to get help there faster than not is really critical. So let me ask you this. So I get a text saying, let's say my mom's fallen, even though my mom's, long passed away. But let's say I get this text and say, there's potential that my mom has fallen. Do I just get one? Because not everybody checks their texts right away, or some people will answer a ring of a phone versus a text. Is there a variable there, or is it just a one format notification at this point?
So it starts off as an app alert, and
Mm-hmm.
actually we set the alert so that it almost rings out like those Amber alerts. I'm not
Yep.
sure if those in Minnesota though. Okay, so in Canada we have these for like missing children.
Yep.
So it does give a ring, like it does the Amber Alert ring.
Okay.
So it is pretty audible. It does also text as well. So you
Mm-hmm.
can view different notification forms. We also have a web app in case you're using a computer. It also pops up as well if you have that. Um, and I think in most cases that covers a big portion of it. It doesn't go away until you clear it, by the way. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
keep making a noise. So um, I think what we really want to do is it provide a system where the families, because also you can set different alerts as well. So falls are one kind of alerts, but there's also like wellness and safety alerts. So for example, like bed exits is a big one, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, if mom gets out of bed between the hours of 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
or maybe midnight at 4 a.m. I
Mm-hmm.
can know, right? So then I get an alert. So some of those alerts we also put in there as well. So there's a few different things that people can add to it depending on kind of their use case, but the alerts will be persistent until they clear.
So that pops up another question for me. So, okay, I get an alert that she got out of bed. Do I get an alert that she's back in bed? Because some people might not want to call right
Yep.
away.
Yep.
thinking they're going to the bathroom, but then they're going to want to know that they did get back in bed as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
is there a follow-up
Yes.
notification?
Yeah, if it gets back up in bed, they're cleared. And false is the same thing, right? I think like there's a lot of diversity as well. So we have, for example, there's religions where people are praying maybe 5 times a day.
Hmm.
A prayer signals the same because we don't do cameras, right? So a prayer signals the same type of behavior sometimes as a slow fall. Like you're on the ground, you're bending down, but then you get back up, it's cleared. So some of those things are clear. You can see the duration of that as well when they're on the ground. So if they do recover or they get back to bed, and then that will clear, yes.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Okay, well, that's good to know because, I didn't even think of the different things in our lives that can put us on the floor, and we want to be on the floor, or be lowered, and the prayer is perfect for that. Absolutely. Now, in terms of when you guys were developing all of this, why was privacy so important to your company?
I just feel like in our own personal lives, it's something where, I mean, I take it very seriously. In my own
Mhm.
house, I have security cameras outside the homes, but never have it inside the homes. We did a lot of user feedback and research, and people just don't feel comfortable with cameras, even if you turn them off. And then there's companies who's out there who have cameras, but they don't show up as an image, they show up as like a stick figure. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of like distrust on that. It's like, how do I know you're showing me as a stick figure and all those different things? And even though I think that you can make the case that whoever's watching doesn't really care, it still makes you feel a little bit icky.
Hmm.
It just feels strange. And also audio, right? Like, you know that thing when you're talking and then Google turns on, or Amazon turns on? I just think
Yeah.
I feel like those just feel icky to people, for lack of a better term. And I think when we were building something, we thought we don't need to have that, and we might lose some stuff along the way, right? We can't do conversations, and we can't do identification in some ways. People appear as blobs, but what you gain is you still preserve the safety without the invasion there.
Yeah, I know for me, I don't have like the Alexa and things in my house. I mean, my phone sometimes answers me when I'm not asking you a question. Yeah,
Yeah.
Siri, and so that kind of throws me for a loop. But I know a lot of people really like that. I know a lot of seniors use it to set reminders and different things. So there's pros and there's cons, I think, with all of this stuff. And for me, I'm in that part where I want to protect my privacy and those that I work with as much as possible, because I do have a little bit of a distrust in terms of how things are being used. And I know not everyone will like me saying that. That's just my personal, belief. I mean, just about every major system has been hacked and our personal data has gotten out of there. So why is this sector going to be any different?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And also, I feel like you don't know what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
I have that distrust, especially with things like audio.
Hmm.
First of all, it sends a lot of false alarms, right? There's like cases where people have these audio devices and they're watching like Law and Order or something, and then and then the cops show up, right? And I think it's also a distrust in terms of like what they're doing with that type of sensitive data. Like if they know about you and your sleep pattern, there's like camera recordings everywhere, it just feels uncomfortable. Even it might be benign for most cases, but still feels uncomfortable. And like you're right, Laura, they also get hacked a lot. So that's also yeah.
Yeah.
Strange.
Well, and I know that there are, when you're talking about our audio and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of AI out there that's being developed for caregiving that's going to clone our voice for responses, but you don't know what those responses always are. I mean, you can set up some standard ones, but a lot of them are saying, well, it will create things, and it's like, well, you don't know if that's going to be a trigger or not for somebody until after the fact. And I don't know, the whole cloning thing is just that's a whole nother piece
Oh,
of the
it's so
pie.
icky. Yeah, it's so icky. There's like this podcast episode I was listening to from this like podcast called Crime Junkies. It's like a
Hmm.
like true crimes podcast. And there's like a new wave of people who's like doing fake ransom, like fake
Hmm.
ransom recordings. I'll send you like a thing. It's like it sounds like your daughter or something. It's crazy. And it just feels very uncomfortable that there's recordings and videos and things out there of you and of people. Because you don't know what they're going to use it for, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
very
yeah.
uncomfortable things for sure.
Well, and like you said, with the recordings too, people now through AI can take a picture and make you say or do or dress totally different, than what you are. And so, again, those things, there's a plus and there's a minus to them. And so I really appreciate that Sylvie is really looking at protecting the privacy of individual adults as a partner in the decision making process of, is this going to work for them, and that they, depending on, especially with dementia, where they are cognitively, are they going to be in the notification process as well? From that dignity standpoint, do they even have a phone anymore or utilize the computer? All of those things come into play, but it's a way to, I think, get people prepared for, things to progress possibly in the future, because typically with dementia, it is going to progress, and it can progress in a lot of different fashions with this. Now, I'm assuming that, this isn't just dementia specific, even though that's kind of what our show is about. I mean, I could see this really with anyone who's aging, who feels worried about, if I fall, will they find me? And I mean, that is such a common thought out there. I mean, it is such a common thought. I hear it all the time. And I think the older I am, I hear it even more, from not only people that I work with in the field, but just from my friends. And I know my own thought process goes there too. It's like, okay, I was working on getting a house ready to sell, and I'm like, okay, I got to change out the smoke detector. And I'm like, I get my little step stool, and I'm like, okay, got to have my phone close, and I have to have it close to the floor in case I fall. But it was like, I never would have thought of that in a million years. Never, without the experiences that I've heard through friends and colleagues, and those that I work with. I never would, that wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I would have just climbed up the ladder,
Mm.
and not a problem. So I think it is something where people are starting to talk about it more, that this is a normal concern. And again, people also see the other side, where somebody falls and breaks a hip or isn't found, or is found days later and possibly not even alive anymore, depending on the injuries and stuff. And they don't want to go there, so they're looking for ways for prevention, which I think is really, I think it's smart. And I think it's an important conversation that we have honestly with people on that. Now, when a family goes out there, they go to Amazon or they go to Google, there's so many things to pick from. What kind of advice do you give them, in comparing? Because everybody sounds good, and to me, I think one of the biggest pluses of yours is the privacy and really valuing that. What are your thoughts?
I think it's such a great question. And the reason why it's a really great question is because everybody goes through it, but no one really talks about it. Like when
Mm-hmm.
we had some health declines on my grandparents' side, and we looked at different options that were available. And you're right, there's so many different options. And I think that you read the reviews, some of them are good, some of them are not so good, and you see that kind of across the board. So it makes this decision paralysis happen. I
Mm-hmm.
would say if we were like outside of Sylvie, obviously, and we were like just looking at products in general, I would distill it down to like what do we need and what are good to haves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of technology that sounds great, are good to haves. Sometimes they're very specialized as well. But what do we really need at the end of the day? I think that's something that was really, really important. It's like, for example, my own grandparents, one of the main things that we were worried about with dementia as well is her leaving her house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was a big deal. So and this was a few years ago, but we put like just as a little dummy proof, a little infrared sensor at our door, so that our door opens, we get a notification um, so those are little small things that I think when people think about like what do they really need and what the problem they're really wanting to solve, if they kind of buy for those needs, that might be better. In
Mm-hmm.
case of Sylvie, it's more for falls, it's more for wellness, it's more for sleep, movements, more data. But some families may not need that, right? Grandma's overall very good. We're just worried that she leaves and doesn't come back home. So maybe a camera on her porch plus a infrared sensor on her front door is good enough, right? So I think that's something that I think people can buy for is like, what is a job that you're worried about solving and kind of solve that directly.
So let me ask you this. So an infrared camera, you said, or an infrared
Infrared sensor.
sensor on the door, is that run through Wi-Fi or is that run through your radar? Is that a separate product that you're comparing? Or is that something that Sylvie can pick up because the door would be in motion in terms of opening?
I wasn't promoting Sylvie. I was just talking about what we would do if we weren't using Sylvie. But Sylvie, so infrared as a technology is very similar. You know when you're at the bathroom and then you're like the airport or something, and then the toilet flushes or the sink like turns on water automatic. That's all infrared. So it's
Okay.
short range. I wouldn't say it's like super accurate, right? Because we've all been there where we waved our hand in the faucet and no water comes on. Like that's
Oh yeah,
so that's
that's
it.
me.
Yeah. It feels like yeah, we've all been there. So I think we can do a few things, but I wouldn't be able to do the level. So I think what Sylvie's more built for is changes over time because we want to understand mobility. We want to understand, things like gait and sleep and wellness as well as falls to understand mobility. We had one example of somebody where they were recently admitted, I think, to hospice because their mobility declined to a point where the family couldn't take care of them. But the family dug through the data. They told me that when they dug through the data and looked at all the information, they could see that that person was on the couch more and more, and the mobility did decline a lot over that time. And it was really, they could see this like sliding slope. And Laura, I think what you've done so well with your website and your resources that people can start to proactively do that stuff exercises, daily like little routines that can help you build back some muscle growth and memory and those type of things as well. So I do think that they felt like if they knew that earlier and they looked at the data more closely earlier, they would have flagged that. So Sylvie's more built for like wellness, independence, peace of mind, rather than just the door thing, which I think.
Okay. Let me ask you the difference between radar and Wi-Fi, or
So
are they interconnected?
So I think there's three questions in this. There's radar and there's Wi-Fi and there's also Wi-Fi motion.
Okay.
So Wi-Fi is I'm gonna get a little nerdy here.
Okay, that's okay because I think it's important,
Yeah.
for us to understand the differences and the benefits and the downsides.
So Wi-Fi is usually 5 gigahertz frequency, so it's all wireless signals.
Hmm.
They all exist just like light is a wireless signal, and just like microwaves, radio waves, gamma rays. By the way, that just it's gone on there. Someone fell. Um, but yeah, so I think Wi-Fi is more of a frequency where usually it's used for communication. So
Okay.
you can transmit things over Wi-Fi, and you can get information, get data. So that's what people generally know Wi-Fi to be. For Wi-Fi motion is where the technology or the idea is that you have different nodes that would access the Wi-Fi network, and then you can basically build this like mesh in the house. So if you walk through that mesh, the idea is that then you can detect movement and those type of things. And the radar is generally room specific.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
So it wouldn't be able to penetrate through walls and go around corners and stuff like that. That's not really what radar is used for. Radar is mostly for a single room. So Wi-Fi, I think it's better when Wi-Fi motion is better in a house where can use existing kind of nodes, and they also sell you nodes. It's good for security.
Hmm.
Like I want to know if someone's moving in my house that should be moving. The accuracy is not there, so they sometimes don't know which room you're in. The falls and those sort of resolutions, it just isn't there. And then the wellness trends are not there. But if someone's like in your house and you have an issue with that, you don't want cameras in your house, then Wi-Fi motion is good for that. And the radar is a lot more accurate from a room level perspective, but it doesn't cover the whole house. So for someone using Silvie, they usually get three. So they get one for the bedroom, they get one for the bathroom, and they get one for their living room. So,
Okay.
so those are the two big differences. I wouldn't say like one is, technically better than another from a mode perspective.
Hmm.
I would say they serve very different use cases.
So another question I have. So I think of Wi-Fi and the ability for it to go down. And because does radar go down or does radar go through Wi-Fi to work? How does that work?
So radar it will connect to the Wi-Fi network to transmit the data because we want to be able to give you alerts. So a lot of the data process on the actual device,
Hmm.
but send out an alert or those things that goes through the Wi-Fi network. So the home needs to have Wi-Fi for Sylvie to work, not because of transmitting and sort of or sensing anything, but it just needs to alert you if something does happen.
Okay, so you need the Wi-Fi for the notifications, but the radar itself doesn't rely on the Wi-Fi. Is that correct?
No, yes, exactly. That's exactly correct.
Okay. Because I think that's a concern, for people as well in terms of if it goes down, and sometimes it can go down for a while, then you're kind of out of the loop in terms of what's what. And then if you have Wi-Fi, and I want to make sure that I'm saying this correctly or getting this clarified correctly. The Does the notification come from the house where the radar is, or does it go back to the company and then you have the ability to shoot it out? But let's say the person in the house, if they have no Wi-Fi, they're not going to get it, but maybe their family members would because their Wi-Fi is okay. So which is
Oh,
it, or is there a third thing that I'm not connecting the dots to?
I see the question. So, the information, if there's something happens in the house, and let's just say there's a fall,
Hmm.
the information is transmitted with Wi-Fi to a cloud, to a
Okay.
central storage. But the family can get that through their phone.
Okay.
So they can get it as long as they have some sort of cellular coverage or their phone's connected, they can get it through that as well. They don't need to have Wi-Fi to get the alerts. Um,
Okay.
they could be out hiking, they could be in the mountains or whatever. As long as they have some way to reach them, they can get that alert.
Okay. So, like I said, I wasn't sure if it was coming from the house and the house had to have the Wi-Fi where the Silvie is set up.
We thought a
Or,
lot about that because we were thinking, we were debating internally that there was, because the Silvie has a Wi-Fi to transmit. We're thinking, should we add a cellular line there as well to transmit? But the architecture got a little bit complicated. So we thought we'd make it straightforward. And then, um, you know, if the Wi-Fi goes down, you do get an alert saying that goes down as well. So
Mhm.
you'll be alerted for that. But it has to reach the the family somehow. So we thought
Yeah.
Wi-Fi was just the most efficient way to do that.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify on that. So, for someone who, let's say, purchases Silvie, a lot of times, the videos make it look really simple. It's not going to be complicated to set up. What's the true poop on Silvie? When I get the box of stuff, what do I have to do, and how much technology knowledge do I need, and what types of resources do I need to have to get it set up?
So I have it here. Uh,
Hmm.
so really what it is two parts. There's a sensor and then there's a
Hmm.
bracket.
Okay.
So you mount the bracket on the corner of a wall, and you can either use tape or you can screw it in, depending on how you want to do it. Some houses have like stucco finishing. So for stucco finishing, those type of things, I would use screws. Screws are just safer. It's about 6 feet or so of height. So for an average person, we say it's like a high five, a high
Okay.
height. So
Okay.
up there. And then all you have to do is now, connect it like this.
Hmm.
And there's a wire that goes from the power cord to the wall. You connect it to the wall. And then there's an app that guides you through the setup. So I think for an experienced installer, it takes around 5 minutes.
Hmm.
For someone that's more of a DIY person, it could take like 10, 15 minutes. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm usually not great at installing things. It takes me about 10, 15 minutes. We also, Pontosense also has, or Silvia also has this system where we do have some installer networks that can be tapped into as well. So someone's buy it, we can set them up with installers as well for them to come in and professionally install it for them.
Okay. And do they always have to go on the wall and be 6 feet up, or is there like a table model at all that can just be placed in a room?
It's usually on the wall because you want it to have the coverage over the room. There's a
Okay.
view that the sensor has. And if it's too much on a table, it also doesn't see behind the sensor. So you want to
Oh,
position where you're able to actually see, most of that room. And it's positioned more like almost like a lamp in a way instead of a tabletop product, just because you want to have that coverage.
okay. Okay. Well, those are all really good points because, like I said, most of us don't understand it till we open it up, and then it's like, oh, is this going to work or not going to work? And having it not be so high and being able to put the bracket on and then just plug that piece into the bracket doesn't sound too complicated. I think for myself, it would be, where am I going to put it in the room? It would be
Yeah.
my big decision versus actually getting a screwdriver and mounting it to the wall, with that. So are they very heavy or are they pretty light?
It's a couple ounces, pretty
Oh,
light.
yep. Okay. So that can make a difference too for people in terms of
Oh,
putting
yeah.
putting that on.
But six
Yeah.
feet is not as low as we think it is, right? So 6 feet has some height to it. I would
Mhm.
say for someone that's a little bit, maybe shorter, you may need a step ladder to get to 6 feet.
Mhm.
Because screwing something in at 6 feet requires you to, you know what I mean, like get in there. So there might be a step. I think a step ladder will make it easier, but not everybody has one. So, with Silvie now, people can get it from us directly, but we are setting up something on our website soon where you'll have access to professional installers that can come in and do it for you as well.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Okay. And if people are living in like a community setting, a lot of times their maintenance person will come in
Oh
and
yeah,
do that for you as well.
yeah,
So that's really nice. Or sometimes even the activities person or, just a concerned staff will assist. All of them have different rules in terms of
yeah.
how to work that out. And, maybe there's a neighbor or a relative that can come over and help install this as well. But you said typically the primary rooms are the bedroom, the bathroom, and
The
the
living
living
room.
room. Okay. I'm surprised the kitchen isn't one of those rooms too.
We thought a lot about it. The challenge of the kitchen is that they're usually different shaped.
Mm-hmm.
And there's usually a lot of things going on in the kitchen, like islands and those type of things as well. So we didn't, but I would say like in our customer base, I don't have the number top of my head, let me guess, but about a quarter of people have it installed in the kitchen as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I can see where, if you have that island in the middle, that can screw things up. But I didn't know if I was on the other side of the island and if I went from standing up to all of a sudden I
Oh
disappeared.
yeah, that would trigger something. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. If you disappear,
Okay.
like we're alerting for sure because
Mhm.
that could mean you've fallen behind an island or you've done something else that requires some sort of challenges. So if you because you can zone the doors so we know
Yep.
when you get to the room and if you just disappeared, for sure something's happened and we should look into that.
Yeah. And so if you duck down to grab something out of the cupboard and then pop back up, then it would undo. It would notify people that you were down, but you're back up.
That would be too quick though. So we do have an algorithm on the back end that identifies what constitutes something like a fall. Um,
Okay.
27 different factors. So time, speed, velocity are all those factors. So
Mhm.
if you drop your keys, you bend down and pick up your keys, nothing's gonna get triggered. So
Okay.
it's got to be a few seconds of
Okay.
on the ground type of thing. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Anything that we haven't covered that we should have covered? Anything that I've missed here?
I think I mean you're so thorough, Lori. I mean, I think what I learned the other day, I think we had a conversation as well on the backside here, but I think one thing that is really important for us as a company in building technology is um, that older adults and seniors should not be treated as any sort of a burden for the family.
Mhm.
I think that's such a bad way to communicate things. And I think we see that a lot. And I think for us, it's something that we want to kind of build into our DNA that it's really Sylvie's bent for independence and wellness and having more years and having more safety. Uh,
Mhm.
it is not meant to be any sort of surveillance in there um, because most people are pretty healthy. A little bit, they may have a couple of years on them, but they're very healthy, live very healthy lifestyles. And I think that's just something where I think you've done such a great job, Lori, on your own materials and stuff to illustrate that. But I just see it so much, and I'm like, whenever I see it, it kind of irks me.
Yeah.
But it's really, you know, it's really a sense of having independence for them. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and this is something we didn't touch on when we talked about the privacy. Sure, it's the privacy of the person who lives there, but it's also the privacy of people who visit there. And
Yep.
so sometimes people will pull back if they feel they're being recorded as well.
Oh yeah.
And so, that's something to consider because I think being socially active and connected is really, really important, for people to people to still have that in their life and feel purposeful and feel connected. And I think sometimes that's overlooked as well. I don't want anybody listening to what I said or watching what we're doing, and, popping on that camera and going, oh, Bill's coming over, what's going on over there, type thing, because that does happen.
Yeah.
And and sometimes things can get misinterpreted as well. I know in communities, let's say memory care itself, sometimes staff are really intimidated by having cameras and stuff in the room. They understand the reason, but it can still be intimidating versus a radar system that's going to, maybe there'll be ones that are alerted if something, unusual happens and stuff too. So I think the effects as a whole have to be looked at and understood that it's the privacy of everyone who enters those rooms.
I think what you're saying is correct. Like I think when people are visiting, they want their privacy, but also I think there's so much different tropes out there that it's just not as sensitive as a community as other communities, right? Because I feel like people um, believe that older adults are certain ways, and in culture in Asia, I think it's a little bit different too, where they think like older people have more wisdom and you look up to your elders. But yeah, I think just to add your point, I really concur with your point. I think it's so correct that the privacy piece, especially for what today is, needs to be something that's really looked at, right? I think that's something that we believed in day one to not use those type of things.
Well, thank you so much. I just think this has been a really important conversation, and I encourage people to check out Silvie and really give some thought to, like Alex, like you said, what are your needs? What are you really worried about? And how is that going to work with people? Now, you had mentioned that most people get like 3 units. Is that like a package that they purchase, or can they buy more if they want, or is it a piece at a time? How does all of that work?
Most people get three, but they can add more if they want to as well. The record we have is like 15.
Okay, big house, yeah.
They did the hallway, they did the stairs, they did the basement, they did the garage.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, stairways are a huge fall
Yeah.
hazard, and getting in and out of that car, or if there's steps going up. I've had people on who have done handicap railings, and
Yeah.
they said they're getting a lot more people because a lot of times there's a couple of steps up to the garage or down to the garage, whichever way you're coming, where they're starting to put handles in there
Oh yeah.
now because people are feeling the need, or storage. That's where one of my friends took a fall. She got up on a ladder and poof, down she
Oh
went.
yeah.
So it's again, it's assessing what's going to make you feel comfortable and be able to sleep at night, that your loved one is okay or that you're okay, and not in fear of what if something happens. So, and the thing that I think too that's important, with this technology, they don't have to push a button, because if you fall and are knocked out, you're not going to push a button for help. And sometimes people forget about the simplicity of things. We had a neighbor who went down, and pushing a button wouldn't have worked for her, with her dementia, but she was in the hospital for quite a while, due to that fall. And thank God her son happened to be on the phone with her when it happened. So he called the police and things and got somebody over there. But, we never know when these types of things are going to happen. And
Yeah.
knowing that there's a system that's going to help us keep an eye on our loved one and protect them, or keep an eye on ourselves so that we feel independent, but still feel safe in case something would happen. Because the older we get, the more stories we hear about our friends or our friends' friends, of things happening. And so it becomes more top of mind for people, even though they're not talking about it, it's still up here.
But also, I think it's another thing about like having a more healthy life, right? I think if you are not at risk and you're young and you're in your 20s, let's say, like it's still good to think about those things and just to understand the health behavior. I mean, um, I'm mid-aged, I would say, in my 40s, but I still use a lot of health trackers to understand those type of things, right? And I think it's just really important to stay and keep a healthy life because whether you're 20 or 40 or 80 or 100, that's the most important thing, is just to be healthy.
Yeah, people want quality of life, and that's a real important thing. So again, people can go to your website, which is Silvie, SILVIE.com. You are on LinkedIn as Get Silvie. You're on Instagram and Twitter, or X. It'll always be Twitter to me, and YouTube as Get Silvie as well. And then you're on Facebook as Silvie. So lots of different ways to be able to reach out. And I would imagine if they go to your website, there's a help button, or, if they've got questions. I don't know if you have the pop-ups of, we're here to help you.
We got a chatbot. Yeah, we got a chatbot in there.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today and giving this great option to our audience. I really appreciate the time and the thought that you've put into creating an independent life and being able to make that last. And then really the whole ethics of the privacy. I really appreciate that very much as well. So thank you.
Thank you for doing everything that you do to give amazing resources to the community and to help people live longer, healthier lives. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Until next time, I always ask our audience to be a giver of hope. Like, click, and share this information. There are people in your spheres that need this information, but like Alex and I were talking about, this is not a conversation that's really being had out there, but we need to elevate that because it is a concern of both families and individuals, and we need to address that and prevent some of these health hazards that can come to be, so people can live a good, well life with quality. And last, I'll just mention, if you're looking for resources, please check out Alzheimer's Speaks for our free educational resources, as well as Dementia Map, our global resource directory. Until next time, we will all see you later. Bye-bye.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.